Today I'm going to break down how I made my song Too Much. So the first thing I came up with for this song was the bass guitar. And I'd been listening to Portugal the Man, their song Feel It Still. And it has like a real just like distinct bass line. And so I didn't really copy it, but I kind of wanted to go with that vibe. So this is what it sounds like. So the song is in D minor. And so to figure out the bass line, I pretty much just played the D minor scale. And it just goes like this. And to record it, all I did was plug direct into my Universal Audio Apollo. And then I'll go ahead and show you some of the effects I use on the bass. That's like I said, I went ahead and recorded it direct in to my Apollo. And so to mix it, let's see here. Started with the chorus. This chorus June 6 plugin. It's a free chorus by Arturia. At least it was free when I got it. And it's just the default preset. Without it, it sounds like this. And then with it. And then after that, I added some R bass. So I have it pretty low at 36, which I'm pretty sure I just put it to the key of the track, which is in D minor. So I just put it to D as the frequency and then just like adjusted the intensity. And then I used FabFilter Q3 to cut out some of the super low end. And then that frequency was just kind of annoying, so I went ahead and did the dip there. And let's see, some multiband. Looks like it's around the same area for the multiband, just kind of cutting off some of those frequencies and taming the low end a little bit. And then this Ozone Exciter. And the Ozone Exciter pretty much just made it cut through the mix, especially on like phone speakers or earbuds, so you could really hear it. And yeah, that's pretty much how I started the track and then how I mixed the bass. So then after I had the bass line kind of like figured out, I went ahead and recorded the drums because I already knew kind of the groove I wanted. And I think the most important part of any song is really the drums and the bass. So if you can get the drums and bass to hit right together and have the right rhythm, then the rest of the song is pretty much going to just fall into place. So this is the drum set that I used to record it. It's a Ludwig Breakbeats drum kit. And I use Zildjian Newbeat hi-hats. And then as far as miking the drums, I use this this blue microphone. I think it's called the Blue Spark. Someone actually gave it to me like 3-4 years ago. And it's just a condenser microphone, but it works pretty good. I use it as an overhead. I just put it over there on that stand, kind of like over there. And then I used 2 Shure SM57s on the snare. I had one on top of the snare and then one kind of on the side of the snare, which also helped pick up some hi-hat. And then inside my kick drum, I have this Shure Beta 52A that I just like stick inside the kick drum and just kind of point towards the beater. And then I recorded these drums into this Focusrite 18i8. It's a really good like interface, kind of like mid-tier interface. And I use this interface solely for drums. So all my drum channels are always plugged in, ready to go. And then on top of the drums, I recorded a tambourine. Pretty self-explanatory, just yeah. So I'll go ahead and show you kind of what the drums sound like by themselves. Yeah, let's just play the chorus part, I guess. I also forgot to mention that I turned off all the effects on the master bus. Yeah, so on the actual drum bus, I have some plugins. So I'll go ahead and turn those off so you can kind of just hear. And then without the tambourine, so yeah, pretty simple simple drum setup. So here's the kick drum. And then without any of the plugins, it sounds like this. And so first thing I started with was a gate. I use the kick short preset under drums, and it just got rid of all the cymbal bleed and stuff like that, so that helped. And then R bass, I pretty much just copied the R bass that I used earlier on the bass guitar, and that just helped like give more body to the kick, and I just adjusted the intensity. And then Pro Q3 cut out this like 200 range. It just makes it like less boxy sounding. So that's what I do with the kick. Pretty simple. Next I have the snares. I actually have 2 snare tracks. Like I said, I had a snare mic on the top of the snare, which was a SM57. And that sounds like this. Let me turn. I have this Comp VCA 65 by Arturia, and I literally just use the snare body preset on the top snare mic usually. And I just went ahead and adjusted some of the settings to taste, and yeah, just cut some of the lows out. I also inverted the phase because I had the top snare mic and the side snare mic, and whenever I flipped the phase on the top snare, it sounded better, so I just ran with that. The side snare, snare smasher preset, adjusted it to taste, and then I just kind of blended those together. On the top snare, I went in and manually took out all the hi-hats, which kind of took a long time, but then together those 2 snares sound like this. And that side snare mic actually picks up a lot of the hi-hat, so that in combination with the overhead gives the hi-hat sound. And then grouped those together, and then I put some verb on the snare. Pretty, like, it's literally just the default preset. Cut out some lows, turn down the mix and the decay and the pre-delay, mess with that to get it in the sweet spot, whatever sounded good, pretty much. And then, yeah, taming the lows, or cutting out the lows that you don't need, taming the highs. Pretty simple. So next is the overheads. Pretty simple stuff. VCA 65 compressor again. I love this compressor. The presets are awesome for drums. Love this Dirty Drums preset. It just works every time. And yeah, I just adjusted the compression amount and the threshold and everything, output gain, all that. I love the presets in these plugins because you can just easily get like close enough to where you want to be, and then you just tweak it to taste. Saves you a lot of time. So definitely use presets. Then I use this gate. I don't even know what it's doing, honestly. I think it's just making it a little tighter. It's not even really doing much. I think it might have been like removing some like background noise. The chair I use, the drum throne I use, like squeaks sometimes. So I think it was removing that, maybe. I don't know. It's on there, whatever. Then I use this effect rack preset called Dirty Smear. It's under the drums preset. And I think I just adjusted some of the Devil Lock and the Echo Boy. Just fine-tuned it. And that just kind of like distorted it. Kind of gives it like almost a Tame Impala sound with a Devil Lock sort of thing, if you guys know about that. And just makes it a little wider. Then some Q3, simple stuff, you know. Get rid of some of the low ends. Tame some high end a little bit. Nothing crazy at all. More EQ, cutting out more lows, taming that snare. I'm pretty sure I remember cutting that because it was like conflicting with the vocals a little bit, if I remember right. But yeah, for some reason I cut that frequency and it seems to work in the mix, so whatever. Another Q3, I remember, because I had about 4 versions of the mix, and I think a few of the versions were just way too like harsh sounding in the drums, so I used a lot of like, cut out a lot more highs in the drums for the final mix. A lot of like real high end that can get kind of harsh. And then let's see, same thing, cutting out more of that high end. Like I was saying, it was, I think I remember it was like really, really harsh on phone speakers and earbuds, so definitely wanted to tame that. And then last thing in the drum bus is the tambourine. Super basic tambourine, you know. I recorded it, I think, with the same mic I used for the overhead. I actually really like this blue mic. It gives kind of like just a darker sound for a condenser. It's probably broken, honestly. That's probably why it does that. But it works pretty good on percussion and guitars and stuff because it is a bit darker. This is without any effects. A little bit of compression from the VCA65 again. Use that on everything. Dirty Drums preset again. And then taming that high-end, like real harsh stuff. And then another thing, I have the tambourine. Yeah, so I pretty much for the verses in the intro section, I took the same tambourine, copied it over, put it down an octave, and put the warps mode in Ableton to beats, and then did eighth note, and then just brought that down. Let's make it like tighter, and then just turn it down by 28 dB. Dang. So yeah, that's how I got that sound. It's the same tambourine, I just messed with it a bit. And yeah, that's pretty much the whole. Ooh, almost forgot the drum bus. All right, so on the drum bus, pretty simple stuff. Got the SSL stereo compressor. So it's doing a good bit of makeup gain, 3 dBs of makeup gain. It's really not hitting too much at all. I mean, like half a dB. But I do have the attack at 1 millisecond, so it does kind of catch the transients pretty quick. So then after that, big surprise, we got the VCA65 again. Drum bus density and aggression preset. Just a little bit more compression on the drums. And then, let's see, I have this effect rack. I use this all the time. So I have the dry signal here. Obviously, it says dry. Then next, I'm pretty sure I added this parallel compression. It's just an 1176, just like squashing the heck out of it. And I just blended that in. Very subtle, but just gives the drums a little bit more like beefiness and like body to it. And then next I have this dirt, what's it called? What's it freaking called? It's a dirt parallel channel thing, whatever, as you can see. And it's just Decapitator. I guess I used a preset this time. Lo-fi kit. Yeah, those are the settings. I use Decapitator a lot on my drums as like a parallel distortion send, and I love the E preset. Usually I would turn the thump knob on, but this time I didn't. And yeah, turned out pretty good. And again, I just blended that in real subtle to taste. Pretty simple. And then I have this Verb parallel bus or send or whatever you want to call it. So this is actually kind of cool what I did here. So this is the reverb I used. It's called Rev Plate 140 by Arturia. I really like the Arturia plugins, as you can tell. And so that's the settings right there. Modern type, whatever that's called. Got the thing kind of short there, drive up, blend all the way, width all the way. Pretty cool. And then I have this Haas effect going. I take that back. It's not. All that's doing is adding some more pre-delay. So it's just like the reverb's not hitting till, I guess, 2 milliseconds after the drums hit, if that makes sense. And then just cutting out, sounds like just all the kick from the reverb. And yeah, blended that in. And yeah, that seems to be all I did for the drums, really. Alright, so the next thing I added after the drums and the bass were the chorus vocals. So I get asked this or I've been getting asked this a lot, like who's singing on the song. So I did the chorus part, the too much part, the 2 lines that I came up with. And then my friend Atticus did the verses and like the bridge pre-chorus breakdown thing. So I recorded my vocals on this Mic-Tech C1. It's just like a large diaphragm condenser. Sounds real good on like vocals, modern vocals and stuff. I don't really like this mic on like guitars or drums because it's kind of like harsh in the high frequencies, but it's amazing for vocals. And then I ran it straight through my Apollo Twin X.
Too much, you're taking too much for too long. Too much, you're taking too.
So as you can see right there, the first half of the chorus has the filter kind of sound, the second half it opens up. So with the filter sound, I was kind of inspired by Pumped Up Kicks because his vocals kind of have that like filtered thing going on, which is super dope. But I figured since the chorus is such just a simple, it's like 2 lines or whatever, right? So I figured if it repeats, it should open up just to give it a little bit more like variation, I guess. So now I'll go ahead and run through all the effects and everything, how I mix the vocals. And I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 6, I guess, layers of my vocal stacks. And I think all the effects on all the stacks are the same, aside from maybe some EQ. I think on some of the stacks I may have rolled off more low end, but you'll get the idea. It's pretty straightforward. So first thing, a little bit of auto tune.
Too much.
In D minor, whatever. Some de-essing, waves de-esser.
Too much.
Arvox, just to go ahead and, compress it. So I was doing about -6 dB on the Arvox. Some EQ, just rolling off 90, cutting from 1500, and this low shelf at 4K. So yeah, real simple EQ. And then another de-esser, Fab Filter Pro DS. So that chain is actually on all the vocals, including the verse. Yeah, it's the same. So that is on all the individual tracks. All right, and then on the chorus vocals, Big Shock VCA 65 transparent vocal preset. Probably just tweaked a few things, real subtle. It's actually hitting more compression than I thought, about 4 dB. So it looks like overall I'm getting about 10 or so dB of compression on those vocals. But it sounded good, so what the heck. Yeah, so vocal color slap preset, that's actually doing a lot more than I thought. And the mix, they're about, what is that? Yeah, so, that was actually adding a lot more than I thought. But again, the mix is pretty low on that. Some Valhalla, the best reverb, you know what I'm saying? Fab Filter doing more cleanup, I guess 500, 4K, more of a shelf there up to 1500, cutting at 65. That's actually a pretty drastic change. That really cleaned up the vocal. And then this is the filter, so it's the phone preset, and then I just automate it. So over here on the first half, so yeah, it just automates on and off. Then I have an effect rack here with some reverb with actually a lot of stuff. Holy crap. So it looks like a delay going into the rev plate. Some EQ, clean it up, I guess. And more reverb at the end. Pretty cool. And it looks like, oh, I forgot about this. This part's cool. So I have this Echo, which is like a stock Ableton delay. And I have it automated here, so it's completely off until the sections in between where there's no vocals. So just go ahead and listen to it and you'll see what it does.
Much for too long, too long.
So yeah, it just automates to kind of fill in those gaps there. Super simple, just like a simple automation. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the chorus. And yeah, the verses are literally the exact same chain. I just don't have that echo. And then I think the only thing I added was this multiband to kind of tame some harshness that was in his verse to kind of match the chorus a little better. I actually added this guitar. And I recorded that with this Fender Stratocaster. And I ran that through this Vox Mini Super Beetle amp. And the head actually has a direct out. So I plugged the direct out from that straight into my Apollo. And that's how I got the guitar tone. And then I also used my pedal board. And I'm pretty sure, if I remember right, I used the Walrus Audio Julia for some vibrato. I love this pedal. It's amazing. And then this JHS Panther Cub, it's an analog delay. It has like actual analog delay chips in it. So that's how I got the slapback sound. But yeah, I liked it. It just had a cool vibe, so I added that in. So then I also added this other guitar, which was recorded with the same guitar, same pedals, everything, which is this guitar that comes in on the breakdown. And actually, interesting part about that section, the bridge or breakdown section, whatever you want to call it, actually was the first half of the verse originally when I made the original demo track for this. But then later on, I decided to move it just out the way because I felt like the verse was like too crowded. So I made that kind of like a breakdown section. And then the other part is this Exhale preset that I used. I don't remember what the preset was, even remember putting any effects on it. I might have put Valhalla Verb on it. I just wanted like something else besides the guitar to have in a few spots to kind of fill it in. And it plays on the second half of the verses as well. And then really there's only one other part of the song, like one other track. I'll go ahead and show you. It's this vocal chop thing I made like right before the chorus comes in. I love this part. It's like my favorite part of the whole song. So I'm actually going to go ahead and open up a new session and show you how to make that. So the first thing I did was I took a blank audio track and I went over here to resampling and just recorded the vocals in.
Too much, you're taking too much.
So yeah, that's all I did for that. And then I got a blank MIDI track and just dragged it down and made a simpler, normalized it, and then went to slice. And I'm pretty sure I went to
Much, too much, too much, too much, too much for too long.
And then I went ahead and put Valhalla, of course. And then after that, I put Decapitator. That's pretty much all I did. And then I, pretty much just drew in the MIDI pattern to however it was in the song. Pretty simple stuff. I just figured I would show what I did in case that might help somebody in the future. But I'm gonna go ahead and try to break down what I did for the mix. So starting off on the mix bus, I have a SSL compressor. Here are the settings: 0 makeup gain, slowest attack you can get, auto on the release. The ratio is set to 4. I have the analog switch turned on this mix. I don't actually do that anymore because all that button does is add some noise, which I guess it turned out okay for this song, but yeah, it just adds noise, which is really weird. And as you can see, it's barely tapping. And then after that, I have a FabFilter. Cutting at this frequency And then I have this cut here at 106. Just kind of taming and compressing that real low end. And after that, I have an Ozone, and this is actually a preset for Maddox. This is his Ozone preset. And yeah, I just went in and tweaked it a little bit. Adjusted the threshold on this low band here to kind of help tame the low end a little bit more. Yeah, didn't do too much to it, but definitely did tweak it a little bit. And the last part of this is an effect rack here, kind of a parallel chain. And I'm just going to solo this so you can kind of hear what this is doing. I'm just going to turn all these plugins off and go through the chain here. So it's this SSL compressor, just like squashing it. Super squashed. Then I have the decapitator. Just distorting it, adding more like beef to it, I guess, if you want to call it that. Fab filter. Cutting everything under 42. And then a ozone imager. That's the presets, or the preset. I think, well, started with the modern width preset and then just tweaked it. And so the key to this is blending it in, so it's in parallel. So here's just the dry signal. Right, and then I had this at, I think, 11. It just kind of fills it in, glues it together more, and then just gives it some more like energy. And so then what I did is I bounced this down as a WAV file and then imported it into a new session and then mastered it. So like I said, I went ahead and bounced down the mix, the final mix, as a WAV file. Just bounced it down into a new session. So here's what it sounds like without a master on it. Sounds good, but it's pretty quiet. And then here's what the master sounds like. So I'll just go ahead and break down the signal chain that I use to master it. So I started with this Pultec EQ from Universal Audio. So it looks like I did a small dip at 200. Let's see. Very subtle dip there at 200. Very subtle boost. Yeah, small boost there at 30 hertz. And yeah, that's it. That's actually, looks like that's all I did in there. So I did a small boost at 30 because I had tamed the kick and the bass a good bit in the mix, because I didn't want the kick and bass to punch too hard like in the car, just because of the type of track it is. If it had been like a hip-hop song or something, I would have just obviously wanted everything to punch real hard. But since this is more of like a indie rock kind of indie pop vibe or whatever, I wanted the bass and the kick drum to be present and for you to be able to feel it, but I didn't want it to punch too hard. So I tamed the bass and the low end and the kick a good bit in the mix. So I added some 30 back just to give it some more body. So after that, I used Ozone, and I'm pretty sure I did the Master Assistant and then just tweaked a little bit of what it gave me. So it looks like it did a cut here at 25, makes sense. Almost a dB, this low shelf 127, or yeah, 129. Real subtle, super subtle. And almost 3 dB at 12, just to give us some air, I guess. And then a few spots here, some dynamic EQ. Honestly, from what I remember, I think I just used Master Assistant and it sounded good, so I just left it. Then we got a Pro L2 at giving 2 dB again. And then L2 doing a 3.7. I like stacking the Pro L2 and the L2 from Waves together, because you can get a pretty cool sound. I feel like stacking limiters is sometimes better, because you don't have to like squash it with just one limiter. Kind of the same with compression. If you start to like stack compressors, it gives like a fuller sound sometimes. I feel like the same with limiters. I could be wrong, but it might be all in my head. But yeah, so I did that. And then last in the chain is a glue compressor. I'm doing 4 on the makeup gain. And it's soft clipping a little bit here and there. And what I did to kind of figure out how loud to make it was I put an L2 here at the end, and it has this like meter here, and so negative 14 LUFS is like right where streaming services kind of like it, especially Spotify. So I just made sure it was right in that ballpark. Yeah, so we're hitting right in that ballpark, which was perfect. So yeah, that's pretty much all I did to make this song. That's how I mixed it, mastered it, etc. And so yeah, the song was actually finished pretty quick. I made the original instrumental and the chorus in like probably 2 hours, and then sent it to my friend Atticus. He threw the verses on it really quick, and yeah, I mixed it in a couple of days. I had like 4 versions of the mix, but yeah, I would just mix it a bit one day, listen to it again the next day, and just refine it and stuff. So yeah, that's what I did. Hope that was helpful. Hopefully if any artists or producers or whatever are watching this, hopefully maybe I taught you something. Everyone probably already knows how to do all this stuff, and I guess if you haven't heard the song already, go ahead and check it out. It'll be in the description, I guess. So yeah, thank you for watching.